Welcome to Coach's Corner, where we chat with coaches at Tomball High School about the world of sports. Today's guest, head football coach Danny Ramsey.
Hi, I'm Sam Abrams.
I'm Austin Dominguez.
And we are the editors of the Cougar Claw newspaper.
With Tomball High School, we're here to interview Danny Ramsey, head coach of the Tomball football team.
So, how do you think the season is going so far?
Started off pretty well. Last 3 weeks have been a little bit difficult, a lot of learning steps that we're having to take with some of the younger kids, but we're confident that we're going to learn those and learn the lessons that are necessary and get us where we need to be.
All right, how do you think you guys were in the playoffs this year? Do you think you have a shot?
Mathematically, of course, we have a shot. We try to focus one game at a time, and so right now we've got a tough Waller team that's coming off of a close loss to Memorial, and so we're going to have to battle them coming in, looking for a win, and looking to bolster their chances to get into the playoffs. But the best thing that we can do is focus on the things that we can control, and so in practice, looking at our mistakes from this past week, looking at holding on to an energy for a longer period of time. It seems like in all of our games, we've tended to play one half or the other and not both. And so putting a complete game together, we feel if we can put a complete game together, then that'll get our confidence rolling and put us on the best chance and possibility for getting in.
So how big is the learning curve for all of the underclassmen coming in? How have they been able to adapt, and how do they?
Some of them it's been baptism by fire. You get there are plans, and then there are things that happen. Between just the last spring and when we began two-a-days, we lost 5 different kids for different reasons, either transferring or moving or injuries and things of that nature. And then, of course, there's the course of the season and the injuries that go along there. And so having to learn is a juggling act at times, because there's not a lot of consistency when you have things like that happen, and there's not a lot of control that goes into those scenarios. Injuries happen; they happen regardless of what you're doing. When you're talking about young men, injuries happen when you go to pick up the newspaper in the morning, much less playing a football game. So we're getting more consistent. We're getting healthier. We got a couple of guys back last week that helped in our performance at times, and so. If we can put a couple of weeks together where we have the same crew working on the consistent same things, then we give ourselves the best shot.
All right, when is your Memorial game?
It's the last game of the year. I believe it's November 7th, if I'm not mistaken. So,
how are you looking against Memorial? What's their team like? What's your team like? Do you think you have a shot to beat them?
Really, our focus is not on Memorial at the moment. I can't do anything about 4 weeks from now until I handle what's going on this week. For that matter, I can't worry about Friday this week until I worry about Monday. And that's broken into pieces. And a lot of what we do in terms of our training has to do with that. You might have noticed if you followed us on Twitter, or if you've been around the football team at any point in time, we've talked about different issues, or when we're trying to motivate or talk about what it is we're expecting for the day. One of our hashtags is undefeated, and it's not about a record of undefeated, although that would be great. Really, it's about refocusing in every moment. And so if I'm going through this drill, I want to go undefeated on this drill. And then as that one finishes, I'm ready to go undefeated on the next drill. And if I focus too much farther ahead of that, then I put myself in a situation that I can't control, and so my mind is not where I need it to be. It's a focus practice. It's a difficult thing, because a lot of times people don't think about what they think. But your mind drives a lot of things that happen. I know you guys do a number of human interest stories where, and you may have covered these, or at least you've read of them, I know, where healing happens because somebody's prayed over someone, or they just had a faith that was huge. And it's the same thing with regard to homework, getting an A in a math class, performing live on a stage, or performing on a football game, is that the preparation that goes into it is daily. It's even moment by moment. That your focus has to be on what's in the moment now and performing your best at that moment, so that when the moment comes, you've already done it 1,000 times. It's not something that, now it's the big moment or the big game. Big game is for you guys to talk about. But for us, it's got to be, to stay poised, you've got to create it to it's just no different than practice. And so practice has got to be a big deal, and it's got to be focused just as much as a Friday night.
What would you say are the team what would you say are the strengths and the weaknesses of the team this year?
We have a talented group of sophomores. We have a talented group of sophomores. And you can put it both ways. But we have a talented group of seniors and juniors too. I mean, probably our weakness is inexperience. That's obvious when I say sophomores that are playing on the varsity, but we have some guys who are varsity players that are seniors that haven't played on the varsity until this year. We have some guys who are juniors that are in that boat as well. So experience, you can only, there's nothing that replaces that. That being said, we've had 6 games now, so we've got 6 games under our belt, and we should learn from those enough to put us where we need to be to finish this season out and get us a shot at getting in the dance. Strength-wise, we have a pretty accurate passer, and our receivers have done much better this year. Our defense is a little bit more revamped, and so we've played better up until probably the last 2 weeks, I guess, but we've played much better than we have in the past. We've had consistent guys defensively. We haven't had as many injuries defensively, and so that helps us. New mindset on both of those ends. And I think I would have told you, or I would still tell you that our mental toughness is still a strength of ours, and it gets its chance to show itself over the next 4 games.
All right, who would you say the star players are on the team right now? People who really deserve a shout out.
Guys who are standing out. Obviously you've got a sophomore kid in Tomball Taylor who's had to play quite a bit and gotten to play quite a bit. He's a special talent. He's got some things ahead of him that only he can cap. His ceiling is as low as he wants to make it, or as high as he wants to make it. But we've had some really great play from Mason Jones. He came in this past week, was a tremendously positive leader when he was able to play this past week. Our offensive line has done well in terms of protection. We haven't given up too many sacks, at least not sacks where the protection broke down. And again, like I said, our receivers have played extremely well. We've had some consistency issues in the backfield with running backs, but that's just because of injuries and different formation packages and things of that nature. Defensively, I would say our linebacking core has played extremely well. We've got 2 really experienced safeties that have played well at times. Those guys, if I'm naming all of those names, that's Ethan Smith and Ethan Karim and Michael Marshall and Cole Koffestein. Brock Knighton was a really big surprise for us this year. He just worked really hard over the summer, and so he's been able to play really well this year. Cameron Como and Jacob Jenkins, those guys have all played well. And as much as I'm saying those names, as the coach in me wants to give all the rest of the names for the kids who've played and done some things that have been eye-opening and surprising as well. So, but those kids, I would say, have performed exceptionally well, and we expect big things from them.
So with regards to Tybo, how far do you see him going in the future, since he's only a sophomore?
I don't know. Again, his ceiling is capped only by himself. It's only from his mind. As he approaches week to week, one thing that you notice is that he gives everything that he's got pretty much every day. There are times when he has a sophomore moment and kind of lets those things get to him, and obviously, that sophomore group was very, as they were 7th and 8th grade and 9th grade players, they didn't experience a lot of loss. And so adversity didn't really rear its head amongst that group too much, at least not in that form. And so taking a group of those and putting them together with the senior class and junior class that we have that are on the varsity now, there's some things that they can learn from each other if they'll open up to do so. And I think that's where Tybo can grow most, is knowing that this year is going to be different from next year, is going to be different from next year. I'd say that of all of our kids, regardless of age level, that's what they can do. But again, his ceiling is limited only by his mind and what it is he wants to accomplish.
All right. How have the injuries been this year?
The last 3 years, that's a question that you could have asked me the last 3 years, and I'd have told you I have no idea. You don't want to see any of them, obviously, but they're just part of sports, and that's what happens. But I'd be lying to you if I tried to tell you that they didn't affect us for the last 2 weeks for sure. If nothing else, when you have an injury, even if a player lasts from Friday to Friday, can play one Friday and then they can play the next Friday. But if they're injured in the between, then again, like I said before, if they're not able to focus on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday when we're practicing, and Thursday as we're going through our kick the field sessions, then it still makes for a difficult Friday because they haven't had that resource. And I think we saw that in a couple of kids this past week, and it was definitely affected the team as a whole.
So looking ahead to the Waller game on Friday, what can you expect to be the outcome of that game?
We definitely feel we have a chance to come out on top. They present a different challenge to us. They're more of a running team than they are a passing team. That helps. We've played fairly well against the run. We've had more limited big plays this year than maybe in the past against runs in terms of big plays. And so we've got a chance defensively to perform really well as we watch them on their defensive side. So offensively for us, we feel like we can take advantage of some things with some height that we have and some quickness that we have on the offensive line. It gets us the edge. And hopefully we can excel in the running game where we haven't necessarily against the last few teams. They've had some pretty solid front sevens, and so we think we might have a shot at doing some things this week. Now, that being said, Coach Phillips is my old offensive line coach from high school, and so I know he's a great coach. He's been for a long time. He's back at Waller, and so where he kind of put them on the map, and so we have a deep-seated respect for that group for sure. And we've got to take care of what we can take care of, and that's all that we can control. And if we do that, then we feel like we've got a chance to perform well this week.
All right, can you give us some more information on the Waller game, where, when, and about the tickets?
We'll be here at Tomball Stadium at 7 o'clock on Friday. Tickets are on sale Wednesday and Thursday. I believe it's during lunches, and the same on Friday up until 12 o'clock.
And has academics been an issue for the team this year? No pass, no play?
No, usually our varsity kids take care of business in terms of that. We have an extensive tutoring program, and when we're working with our teachers, we're making sure that our kiddos are going to tutoring. There's 3 days a week where it's mandatory, and we don't start practice until later on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday simply because of that. And so our kiddos have taken care of business thus far on that end, and that's helpful when you don't have to worry about whether or not the guy's on the bubble or not, and how much practice you're going to give him when it comes to that time. So.
And how have you been liking Tomball? It's been a while since you settled in. It's been a while since you became the head coach. How's things been progressing for you?
Tomball is phenomenal. I've said it multiple times, and I could be here for 30 years, and I would be happy about it. Of course, it provides great opportunities for me and my family. My wife's parents are in town. My parents are in town. And so my kids get to see their grandma and grandpa on both sides quite frequently. And that's a good deal. You can't trade that. Family's really important to us. So as far as the school goes, you couldn't ask for a better working environment. The kids are tremendous. The parents are supportive and active. And when you've got those combinations, it sets up for a lot of things where you can be successful for a long period of time.
So did you play football in high school as well?
Yes.
Where did you go to school?
I played at Westfield.
Oh.
Long time ago.
So your wife works here as well?
Right. My wife is a geometry teacher.
And how does she like it here?
Oh, she loves it. It's tremendous. Like I said, anytime where we're able to be in the same building, that allows us at least a glimpse to walk by the class, or she can walk by the field house and I'll actually get to see her, because football coaches' lives are pretty much gobbled up by the time preparation that goes on. And so to have our kids, we don't live in the Tomball zone. Just didn't work itself out when we were finding a house at the time. But our kids go to school in Tomball schools because we believe in what's going on in the district, and so that's always good for us all to be in the same area.
All right, obviously football coaches spend a lot of time with football. I imagine the players spend a lot of time on practice as well. Is stress ever an issue with the players?
I'm sure it's an issue with all of us. I have a daily routine where I'm working out. I have to, because if I don't, I'd probably explode. Obviously, one of the ways that we try to help our kiddos in terms of, as far as football players go with regard to that, is football can be a release, and in a lot of ways that's kind of what it is. When you cross the doors and enter the field house and it's time for practice, you get to let go of whatever else it is that you're dealing with in life, or at least you should. That way your focus is completely where it needs to be. But the great thing about football is none of the coaches that we have on this staff are here for a paycheck only, or are here just because of X's and O's. Every single one of them is a life coach in some capacity or another, and believe that football is a resource in order to teach the lessons of life. And that's one of them, is that there's got to be a place that you have that lets you release from the tensions of a job, occupation, family, relational problems, any of those things. And so football gets to be that outlet for the majority of those of us who are out there. And then so we try to teach that a lot with regard to our kids. That look, this is your chance to cut off from the world for a bit and take a vacation for 2 hours from the issues that you have, whether they be at home or in school or relationally. And so, you know, that's what we focus on with regard to that.
Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Is there anything else that we haven't asked you that you think we would like to know?
I don't know. There's always interesting points, I guess. You may not know that, I don't know that you want to know this or you don't want to know this, but if you're asking me, hey coach, what's an interesting fact that not a lot of people know? I don't know if it's not a lot of people, maybe not a lot of people in Tomball, but I sing on a praise team every Sunday morning. And so that's a sacrifice for our family as well, because that's a 7:30 appointment every Sunday morning. And then it lasts until 12:30, and then of course we come back up here and we're working. But in doing that, it's one of the great things about Tomball is that faith is not something that's left out. It's actually in the priority list that we're able to wrap ourselves around here, and that's what makes Tomball what it is.
All right, well, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thank you.